breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Rob Donaldson, who does such great work with the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets. We're going to be chatting with him a little bit about how he takes a look at this time of year, if he puts more credence into full season numbers versus a recent form now that we're in late August, early September, getting into these playoff chases. We're also going to be talking about the playoff landscape and these games for Saturday. In the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Saturday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, Larry ZM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever that 100% of gambling transactions do indeed get approved. When you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That's going to get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we did see in baseball on Friday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
It was the Philadelphia Phillies getting the job done by a count of 2-1 for the Atlanta Braves. Braves managed to score 1 run on 12 hits. They stranded 10 men on base as Bryce Elder gave one of his best performances of the year. Gives up 1 run over the course of 7 innings. From there, Dylan Lee gives up a run in a third of an inning. Pierce Johnson, he was able to strand the bases loaded 2/3 of an inning scoreless. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, a really interesting start from Ranger Suarez. I can't call it masterful. He gave up 1 run in 5 innings, but he gave up 10 hits along the way. From there, David Robertson, along with Matt Strom, Orion Kerkering, Yohan Duran, all in a scoreless inning. The Phillies, they themselves left 8 men on base, but they find a way to persevere, and they get that one done on the money line. The St. Louis Cardinals, who have been having a tough time scoring runs, they find a way to get the job done against the Cincinnati Reds. They were on to a 7-5 win there as the Reds stranded 14 men on base in this one. They do get a trio of bombs. You had Cabrian Hayes get his 5th home run season off of Grayson Garracifo, and then Neovalli Marte and Spencer Steer both go deep off of Matthew Liberatore. For Marte, 12th home run season, Steer is 17th as Liberatore gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings across 8 hits. Or I'll call it from there, a scoreless inning. Garracifo, he gives up 2 runs over the course of 1 1/3 innings, but Jojo Romero, and out of the bullpen, Matt Svanson, 1 1/3 innings scoreless, and Ryan Fernandez, scoreless 10th inning to be able to get the job done. And for the Cardinals, pair of home runs of their own. Pedro Baez, he gets his 10th home run season off of Zach Little, and Little gives one up to Ivan Herrera, 11th home run season. Littell, 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in 7 innings. Nick Martinez gives up a run in an inning. Emilio Pagan, a scoreless 9th inning before Tony Santillan, 2 unearned runs given up in the 10th inning as pair of errors out there by the Reds really costed them as Ellie De La Cruz had an error in the 10th inning. So that was a little bit rough out there, and things were rough for the Washington Nationals as they fall to the Tampa Bay Rays by a count of 4-1. For the Rays, Adrian Don't Call Him Doogie Howser, not a lot of length with only 4 innings, but gives up just 1 run along the way. From there, Garrett Clevenger, Brian Baker, Pete Fairbanks all lend a scoreless inning, and Brian Van Bale, or Belay, one of those two, I don't know how to say his last name, but he did give you 2 scoreless innings, and I'm sure that if he continues to pitch like that, we will know his last name. From there, Brandon Lau off of Mitchell Parker, his 27th home run season, and it was home run number 1 of the season and might be of the career of Everson Piera. He was able to go deep after being a part of the Yankees organization for quite some time. Mitchell Parker gives up 3 runs over the course of 6 1/3 innings, including those 2 bombs. From there, you had Cole Henry, lend a scoreless inning. Clayton Beater was able to come in for a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. PJ Poulin gives up a run in 2/3 inning. Orlando Revolta, and out of the bullpen. And how about this for the Washington Nationals? They strand 13 men on base, and they go 0 of 12 with men in scoring position. That's not great, but what is great is Paul Skeens. He's able to get his 9th win of the season as Pirates go on the road. They get the job done against the Boston Red Sox, this by a count of 4-2, and the Pirates go 2 of 13 with men in scoring position, but Skeens, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, give it up in 6 innings. Did give up a home run to Roman Anthony, 8th home run season, but bullpen at his back, Isaac Manson, Dennis Santana, Dory Maretta, they all lend a scoreless inning, and for Boston, you had 5 1/3 innings from the young gun in his MLB debut, Peyton Tolley. He gives up 2 runs, so he was solid. From there, Greg Weiser gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Jordan Hicks, a run given up in a third of an inning. Justin Slayton, a scoreless inning along with Brandon Bernardino, scoreless inning, and Justin Wilson, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but not a lot doing for the Boston Red Sox at the plate. Not a lot doing for the Seattle Mariners bullpen as they give it up against the Cleveland Guardians by a count of 5-4 as the Seattle Mariners get a 4 spot up in the first inning and do not score from there. Ori Polanco was able to get his 21st home run of the season. That comes off of Logan Allen. Logan fills 6 innings after giving up 4 in the first, giving up those 4 runs from there. Jacob Junis, 2 scoreless innings. Tim Aaron, a scoreless inning despite giving up 3 hits along the way for the Seattle Mariners. They go 3 of 5 with men in scoring position, but stranded a lot of men on late. For George Kirby, gives up 2 solo home runs over the course of his 7 innings of work as Kyle Manzaro, 22nd home run of the season. Nolan Jones, his 5th home run of the campaign. From there, Matt Brash gives up a run in his inning, and Andres Munoz, a third of an inning. He comes in the 9th inning, gives up a pair of runs, so that is another blown save for him, his 7th of the season, and I do believe that leads all of baseball, so not necessarily savory there. And the LA Dodgers had absolutely nothing going for them on offense as they fall to the Arizona Diamondbacks by a count of 3-0. For the Snakes, you have Blaze Alexander go deep off of Blake Snell, 7th home run of the season, and Zach Allen, probably his best start of the season, 6 scoreless innings. From there, Jalen Beeks, Kyle Backus, Jake Woodford all end a scoreless inning, and the Dodgers just seem to struggle without Max Muncy in the fold, and Blake Snell wasn't amazing on this day either. Did get 8 strikeouts, but allows that home run, 3 runs in total over the course of 5 1/3 innings. From there, the bullpen was fine. Anthony Banda, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Kirby Yates, Jack Dreyer, and Ben Kasparis all ended scoreless inning. We've seen lots of overs out in Sacramento this year. This one was an under, though, as the Walker Texas Rangers, they're looking to fight their way back in the playoff picture. 5-2, they take down the Athletics as Jack Leiter was able to give you a solid start, 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. Hobie Milner, Shawn Armstrong, they combined for 3 scoreless innings, and Jonah Heim goes deep off of Jeffrey Springs, his 10th home run of the campaign, and Mr. Hellman is able to get his 3rd home run of the season as the young gun Michael Hellman was able to go deep. That comes off of Michael Kelly. For Kelly, he does give up that solo home run over the course of 2/3 of an inning, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned. And then Jeffrey Springs, 3 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. You had a scoreless inning out of Brady Basso and Edgarnil Nunez. Hopefully I got that correct. 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. For the Chicago Cubs, they land-based the Colorado Rockies is by a count of 11-7 as for Cade Orton, solid start considering it's Coors Field, gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings, did allow a home run. From there, the bullpen was quite suspect. Ben Brown gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in 2 innings. Drew Pomeranz gives up a home run, 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Brad Keller, and out of the bullpen scoreless, and Andrew Kittredge, a scoreless inning, but for the Cubs, they had Dansby Swanson on their side as he had 6 RBI and a pair of bombs, home runs number 20 and 21 of the campaign. Ian Happ was not hapless. He had his 17th home run of the season, and Michael Busch, 26th home run of the season. Cubs have been the lowest scoring team in the big league since the All-Star break entering into this game as Urban Marquez just lit a blaze. 8 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings, including a pair of bombs. Jaden Hill gives up a run in 2/3 inning. Antonio Senzatella out of the bullpen, 2 runs allowed in 3 innings, including a pair of solo home runs, and Victor Vodnik, a scoreless inning. And for the Rockies, going deep off of Cade Horton, you had home run number 3 of the campaign for Yanquiel Hernandez, and then it was home run number 8 of the season for Kyle Farmer. That one comes off of Drew Pomeranz. For the Slam Diego Padres, it gets slammed by the Minnesota Twins, this by a count of 7-4, as for the Twins, they were able to do a good job of getting to Nestor Cortez. He only last 3 innings, giving up 3 runs along the way. From there, Wandy Peralta, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, give it up in a third of an inning. David Morgan comes in for 4 outs out of the bullpen, gives up a solo run along the way, and Yuki Matsui, he gives up a run in his inning work. Alec Jacob in long relief, 2 1/3 inning scoreless, but not a lot doing for the San Diego Padres on this Twins bullpen as Justin Topa gives up a run in an inning. Cole Sands, Cody Funderburk, both on his scoreless inning, and Zebby Matthews, 3 runs, 2 of which were earned, given up in his 6 innings of work as Royce Lewis was able to go deep for the Twins. Home run number 9 of the campaign. Nice low scoring game out there in Houston. The Astros take it to the LA Angels, this by a count of 2-0 as for the Houston Astros, they have been one of your better under teams in all of baseball thus far this season, while the Angels, they very much have been an over team this year. As a matter of fact, second best team to the over, 72 overs, 56 unders, and 6 pushes thus far this season. And for the Angels, Tyler Anderson was great. 5 innings, he gives up no runs. From there, Luis Garcia gives up an under run in an inning. Ryan Zefrion gives up a run in an inning, and Robert Stevenson scoreless himself. But Angels go 1 of 9 with men in scoring position as Christian Javier, 6 scoreless innings with 6 punch-outs. Anya de los Santos, a scoreless inning, and then Craig Kimbrell, Caleb Bort. They combine for 2 scoreless innings to be able to get that one to the window. For the Royals, Mike Yastrzemski for the 4th time in 25 games with the Royals. It's a leadoff home run, but not enough. 5-3 the final as the Royals get up a 3 spot in that first inning with a home run off the bat of Yastrzemski, 15th home run of the season. Then Kelly Garcia, 14th home run season. From there, nothing doing. As Seth Lugo, 4 runs allowed in 3 1/3 innings. Bullpen from there was good. Taylor Clark gives up a solo home run in his 2 innings of work, but Jonathan Bowen, 5 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Anel Zerpa, Sammy Long, both led a squirrel setting. As going deep for Detroit, you had Dylan Dingler get his 12th home run of the campaign. And for Chris Paddock, 3 2/3 innings, he allows 3 runs, including those 2 bombs in the first inning, but bullpen went to work from there. Troy Melton, Kyle Finnegan, 5 outs out of the bullpen squirrels apiece, and then Tyler Holton, Will Vest. They're both able to lend a squirrel setting, and also being able to lend quite a few squirrel settings was the New York Yankees. They take it to the White Sox, this by a count of 10-2, as for New York, Carlos Rodon gives up 1 run over the course of 6 innings. Fernando Cruz, Camilo Doval both give you a squirrel setting. Tim L does allow a run in an inning, and for the Yankees, they get 10 runs on 7 hits, because for the White Sox, Yandris Gomez gets a start. He gives up 5 runs, 4 of which were earned on 2 hits because he walked 6, and he would allow a home run. Going deep for the New York Yankees, Trent Grisham, 28th home run season, then Anthony Volpe later on off of Mike Vasil, his 19th home run season. Vasil gives up 2 runs over the course of his 2 innings, including that home run, and then you had Grant Taylor give up 3 runs without getting a single out of the bullpen. Brady Iser, Jordan Leisure, and the backup catcher, Corey Lee, all lend a squirrel setting, but not enough there. And for the New York Mets, they had more than enough offense on this night. 19-9. They land base of Miami Marlins. They had 12 runs in the first 2 innings. Eri Perez, 2 outs in his start. He gives up 5 runs, all of which were including 2 home runs. He gave up as many home runs as he got outs. And then Tyler Zuber, 7 runs allowed in an inning. Valentin Beloza actually holds down the fort. He gives up a run in 4 1/3 innings. Javier Sonja, the backup outfielder, 6 runs allowed in an inning, and you did have a squirrel setting out of one Mr. Seth Martinez, so yay, verily there, but man, oh man, for the Miami Marlins, not great to say the least, although they did put up 9 runs. Otto Lopez was able to go deep off of the catcher and Luis Torrens, 12th home run season, and Torrens gives one up to Liam Hicks, his 5th home run of the campaign. As for Torrens, he comes in because the game was just such a big blowout. He does give up 4 runs in his inning. He does give up 4 runs in a third of an inning. Ryan Stanek, the actual pitcher, had to come in and get the final 2 outs of the 9th inning, as this was the debut of Jonah Tong. He gets 6 strikeouts, gives up 4 runs, only 1 of which was earned. Hurt by a Francisco Lindor fielding error. Ryan Elsley, a squirrel setting. Joey Castillo gives up 1 run in his 2 innings of work. So the New York Mets, they do find a way to persevere, and they do get the job done. And so do the Milwaukee Brewers. 7-2, they take down the Blue Jays. Brewers, by the way, averaging darn near 5.7 runs per game away from home, as Freddie Peralta, a really good start. 1 hit allowed in 6 squirrel settings. Aaron Ashby does give up 2 runs in his inning, but Shelby Miller, Ebner Uribe, they both on a squirrel setting. And Andrew Menesterio's coming up big for the team. 4th home run of the campaign, that comes off of Shane Bieber. He made us believers. He gives up 2 runs in 5 1/3 innings, and then the bullpen really blew this game, as you had Justin Brule give up 2 runs in an inning. Louis Varlin, he gives up a run while getting just 1 out of the bullpen. Brandon Little, he gives up 2 runs in a third of an inning, and then Tommy Nance, Uriel Rodriguez, they both come in for a squirrel setting, as the Brewers have been cold in that series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. They go 4 of 10 with men in scoring position, so they get things righted there. Do have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern. Do have to do this as the top of the 9th is still going on, but the San Francisco Giants are going to win this game. As I am recording this, they're up 15-7 with 1 out in the 9th inning, as for Dean Kramer, he got destroyed. 7 runs allowed over the course of 3 innings. From there, Corbin Martin gives up 2 home runs, 3 runs in total in 2 innings. Ynier Cano, don't you know, he came in for 1 1/3 inning scoreless, but Grant Wolfram gives up 5 runs while getting 5 outs, only 1 of which was earned. He was hurt by a trio of errors out there in the field, and you did have Kobe Mayo go deep for the Orioles, his 6th home run in the campaign. That did come in the 8th inning off of Keaton Wynn, who's currently in the game trying to hold it down in the 9th inning. He's gotten 1 full inning under his belt, giving up that solo home run. Robbie Ray was not necessarily effective in this game. He's not going to get the win. 6 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings. Spencer Bivens, 5 outside the bullpen squirrels, and Matt Gage was able to give you a squirrel setting, as well as the Giants 8 of 17 with men in scoring position on this night. What is savory is taking a look at what we're all getting in baseball right now. Now, this is with quite a few of the games pending for Friday. I did have to record this a little bit in advance, but that said, if you look at the last 30 days in Major League Baseball, favorites have been doing quite solid. 217 and 159 on the money line, with some Friday games pending, 57.7% on the money line, and the over sitting at 53.7% in this time span. 194 overs and 167 unders. Meanwhile, if you look at the last 7 days in baseball, favorites 52 and 34 on the money line with some games pending from Friday. So that's a 60.5% hit rate, with the overs hitting at about 52.5%, 44 overs to 40 unders. Meanwhile, overall for the season, it has been an underwhelming season. 982 unders, 937 overs. So that's a 51.2% hit rate to the under, and favorites hitting at 57.1% for the season, 1,135 and 853. So that's where we're seeing in baseball right now. That's where we're all all getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we chat with our good friend Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets, right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the PC Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got John Bowman aboard, as he does a tremendous job taking a look at this great game of baseball. I know he's been doing some great work with our friend Johnny Venezio. He joined this podcast a few days ago over on the Breaking Bet podcast. I know that John Bowman does a great job with his Dub Club. He does a great job with Baseball with Bowman as well. He's all over the place taking a look at not just professional baseball, but also does a great job on the college baseball front as well. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at John Bowman, his first and last name, and then the number 11 altogether. And John, always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, always appreciate you having me on, man. Always happy to talk some baseball, especially with the season winding down now.
Yes, absolutely. We are in the meat of it, about a month remaining. And just how do you take a look at the playoff picture? Because I've been a baseball fan my entire life, and I can't remember quite a season where it's been quite this open, where it feels like there's not a lot of separation between any of these teams in darn near any of these divisions. And in either league especially, it just feels so open, and these teams all feel oh so flawed this year.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's a perfect team out there right now. Whereas, in the past we've said, in the past it's been the Dodgers multiple times. They just haven't won a championship multiple times because obviously we know anything can happen in the playoffs. But there are plenty of races coming down to the wire. Lots of teams still in it. It seems like one of these good teams could get swept and suddenly one of the teams chasing them sweeps, and all of a sudden, some of these teams are tied. So I do think it's going to be one of the more fun stretches in the past few years.
Absolutely, and I do think that we are going to have ourselves a great race in general. And is there any team or two that you're starting to feel a little bit bullish on? Because as I've been looking at things, the more that I look at the Seattle Mariners, the more that I feel good about them because they've dealt with so many injuries. If they could get like Bryce Miller going a little bit more, I would be feeling a little bit better about them. So they're a team that I'm a little bit stock up on. Is there a team or two out there that you feel like might be finding the groove and they might be starting to peak at just the right time?
Yeah, so kind of like we said earlier, I really do think any of these teams could win, any of them could lose. I think the AL is wide open, as wide open as it gets. I do think the Astros and the Mariners, with their moves, probably have the best teams. Maybe the Mariners, to be honest, would be my best team. But the Yankees are starting to play really well right now. The Red Sox are starting to play really well right now. So I really do. And we know the Blue Jays are good. They've been good all season. They've just had that bugaboo in the postseason, haven't been able to win any games. So I really think anything could happen on the AL there. NL, we know the Dodgers are the team to beat. They're starting to finally get healthy again. That bullpen's been decimated. And the Brewers, we knew they were going to slow down after that insane stretch. So the Cubs are kind of coming back to catch them a bit. And then I was hoping the Reds in my plus 300 future would, have more of a chance, but I think the Mets are pulling away right now.
Yeah, it's just been a lot of runs in general. And just how do we take a look at handicapping baseball in the final month of the season? Because there's a big giant sample size of over 130 games on all of these teams. But you mentioned with the New York Mets, you had to throw that out the window the last few weeks until they were able to get back online with the New York Yankees. They've been looking like a completely different team over the last few weeks. And the Brewers were as hot as lava. Now they're starting to come back to earth. So you had to throw out the season numbers for them for a few weeks as well. And it just feels very strange because you always want to be putting a lot of credence into what a team has done overall for the season, but at the same time, you just mentioned it, these are some very streaky teams this season.
Yeah, you can even see the record in the last 10 games for all of these teams right now. Not a single team has a better record than 7-3, and not a single team has a worse record than 3-7. So it just shows how, how the best teams don't win every single game at this point in the season, and how, these lower teams are giving some younger guys shots, and, anything could happen with those games. So, if that doesn't show the parity right now, I don't know what does.
Yeah, it's just been absolutely insane what we've been seeing there. John Bowman, who does such great work with Baseball with Bowman, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And we've got a lot of this intrigue that is going to be lingering into a Friday, as well as the Arizona Diamondbacks were able to stop the Milwaukee Brewers, and they were able to get a few wins, but Zach Allen, as we know, has been absolutely terrible. And this, I think, might be the key for not just the LA Dodgers, but perhaps that National League playoff picture. Blake Snell, and he has looked so good since coming off the injury list. Right now with the Dodgers, they're total in this game for Fridays at 8.5, and Snell's right around about a -$2 favorite. How do you look at not just this game for Snell, but in moving forward? Because we know this with Snell. When he is on, he is one of the best pitchers on the face of planet Earth. But when he's off, sometimes it's just a complete and utter disaster.
I see it at -194 on DraftKings right now. I think that's one where you've got to hammer because it's going to come up. And I know it's really juicy, but you could end up going -1.5 if you want to. But I think that's going to go way higher. The D-backs have been playing better lately, but Blake Snell's been pitching great. Zach Allen's been absolutely terrible. And the Dodgers are getting healthy now. You got Kirby Yates back, Tanner Scott back. That's been their biggest problem lately is these bullpen pitchers.
Yeah, it really has been. And then I do have to ask you about this, as we're going to be seeing with the New York Mets, a team that has had struggles with their pitching. I think is about the most polite way of putting it. Jonah Tong, who has been amazing at the minor league level. He makes his MLB debut against the Marlins. Right now, the Mets are between -150 to -160 favorites, and I think that this is such a tricky game because if you base it on the minor league numbers and the minor league numbers only, Tong has been one of the best prospects I've seen in quite some time, but I love fading guys to their first start because the nerves oftentimes get to them. There's oftentimes high expectations, and there are for our good friend and Mr. Jonah Tong here, and a lot of times they don't live up to it. Not everyone can be Paul Skeens or Steven Strasburg when they make their debut. How do you take a look at a game like this for a guy that I think is going to be very key for the Mets in the final month of the regular season?
This one at -164 right now, I think it might be a little juicy on the Mets, but the thing is the Marlins, a couple things. Yuri Perez has really been the only Marlins pitcher right now. They DFA'd Cal Quantrill and he was playing well. And Sandy Alcantara, who's figuring it out now. But Yuri Perez has been one of the few that's been consistent. The thing with the Marlins, and I don't get to watch a ton of Marlins games because I'm blacked out where I live. Discussion for another time. But I was able to watch a game the other day. They were saying how all these pitchers are around their innings limits. And so they're not necessarily using all these pitchers and all the leverage opportunities that they would be in. So I think that's massive for the Marlins. I really think they're going to struggle down the stretch. And the Mets are starting to play well, especially at home right now. So that might be able to cover the inexperience with Tong.
Yep, and I think that that's something so interesting that you bring up because late in the season, a team that's out of the playoff race like the Miami Marlins, I think that those are such interesting games. Those are such interesting teams to be able to gauge because when it comes to some of these teams, they fight really hard. They're working to be able to get back to 500, build upward momentum going into 2026. But some of these teams as well, like you mentioned, the inning limits are coming up for them as well. How do you gauge them? Because year in and year out, we get a few surprise teams that they put together like a winning September after they had won like 50 games in the first few months of the season and they were completely out of it. And then you have some of these teams that they go from bad to worse in the final month of the season.
Yeah, it's really difficult, right? Because you have so many of these new guys, so many, prospects coming up and they're playing for their jobs on these really bad teams. So they obviously have the motivation there. Then you have these really good teams who, they're playing for playoff position. Every game matters to them. But that also, I think a big thing there is that doesn't mean they're going to win every game. It doesn't mean they're going to win every series. And I think that's a big mistake that people make down the stretch. Just because they should win a game, they have to win a game, doesn't mean they will. Especially teams that aren't playing well down the stretch, thinking even they still need to win games. So I think that's something very important to think of too. But there's just so much, I guess, at stake the last month of the season between jobs and between playoff spots that it creates that situation.
Yep, it certainly does. And there's always a lot of fun to be taking a look at there. And then I always think that a team like this is so intriguing. The Atlanta Braves, who had such high expectations coming into the year, and they are going to fall so short of them. They trot out their Bryce Elder on Friday, and they are less than $2 underdogs, which I don't necessarily agree with. Ranger Suarez is going to be on the bump for the Phillies. How do you take a look at not just this game, but a team like the Braves in the final month of the season as to whether or not they're going to fight, they're going to try to be able to build some momentum going into 2026, or if they just feel sorry for themselves and they just completely tank the final month of the season?
Yeah, this one's tough. I do really want to see the game on Wednesday night first. I want to, feel the vibes of that game, see how the Phillies do coming home after, I believe they got swept against the Mets.
Yes.
See how they do with Aaron Nola going first, who's been terrible. I think that'll show a lot. Then the other thing to throw out, these are two division rivals. The Braves have the talent to, win any game, any night. They've lost the most one-run games in the entire league. But the Phillies are so good at home. So, I would lean Phillies there, but I do think these games are going to be closer than we think. That being said, I'm not too high on Bryce Elder this year at all.
Oh, he has been absolutely terrible, and I'll go a little bit further for you. In the last 12 starts, he's got an 8.06 ERA. That is an almighty bad run for him, and is there anything else that you're going to be taking a look at for Friday, whether that be a team that you want to see a little bit more from, a game or two that you're looking to bet, just anything on Friday that's really catching your attention?
I think a fun matchup will be the Blue Jays Brewers, because we know the Brewers are on that super long streak. We got Freddie Peralta and Shane Bieber making his first start back from injury. So I think that's going to be a really interesting game. Two teams that are pretty much certain going to make the playoffs, and two really good pitchers too. So I think that's going to be a great game. And then you already hit on it, the Diamondbacks Dodgers. I mean, Diamondbacks haven't been great, but I feel like there's a microscope on the Dodgers at this point, figuring out if they can be the same team as last year.
And then I think that this is also of intrigue as well, not necessarily because the game has the utmost importance, but Cade Horton is going to be starting on Friday at Coors Field. How do you take a look at his prospects for NL Rookie of the Year? Because I know that our good friend Johnny Venezia was talking about it on this podcast a few days ago. He went from north of 20-1 to now being the favorite to win NL Rookie of the Year. And I think that this is such a critical start because, as we know, at Coors Field, funky things can happen and it can balloon up your ERA.
Yeah, I mean, the Cade Horton, rising has been unbelievable ever since college. He had a 5-something, 6-something in college, but an absolutely dominant run in the College World Series. Got his stock up to all the way in the first round, and now he's dominating with the Cubs already. So this kid lives for big games. That being said, first time at Coors Field, you really don't know what's going to happen. And the Rockies have been playing better lately, relatively. They haven't been losing 9 of 10. They've been losing 6 or 7 of 10. And the Cubs aren't hitting right now. And then there are two things that could go into that is either the Cubs go into Coors Field and they figure out they're hitting, or they go in there and they don't. So it's tough there. I don't really like that number much.
Yeah, and it's always tricky whenever you go to Coors Field because you never know what's going to happen. Even though the Rockies have been not good this year, to say the least, that's about as kindly as I could put it. Even when you have a bad Rockies team, sometimes you just have a harebrained and crazy game at elevation. And things are always great when you're on this podcast, John. You do such an amazing job gauging this great game of baseball. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people are able to follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, it's at Baseball with Bowman on Instagram, and then at John Bowman 11 on X. And, that's where I post most of my content. That's where pretty much everything should be. And if you want to subscribe to, all my information and all my picks, my website is in my bio. So appreciate you having me on as always.
Always great to be able to get John aboard. He does an incredible job taking a look at this great game of baseball, and every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. So a big thanks to John for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. Did so once again today. So a big thanks to Rob for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and we're going to be going in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any intra-league games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice and clean and easy. So how about if we start things off with 901, 902 on the card. The Miami Marlins are on the road facing off against the New York Mets. David Peterson, great name, is on the bump for the Mets. Edward Cabrera is on the bump for the Miami Marlins. And the Marlins do find themselves as between plus 152 to a plus 160 underdogs. Minus 172 to minus 190 is the number on the Mets. The total is 8. The under is minus 115 and the over is minus 105. And I'm going to be in on this total under. I did set my total at a 7.9. David Peterson has been a master at limiting hard contact this year for Peterson. He is allowing 0.5 home runs per 9 innings, 8.1 strikeouts to 3.3 walks per 9 innings. A 3.18 ERA. Fielding dependence a little bit higher than that because he's not necessarily a strikeout artist, but all in all has been able to do a solid job. And how about Edward Cabrera? The record is just 7-7, but he's pitched great. 3.32 ERA, 3.39 fielding dependent, 9.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's only giving up 3 walks per 9. He had never been below 4 walks per 9 innings for a full season. Has been a little bit less than savory from last 3 starts, a combined 11 runs, 9 of which have been earned there, so that's a little bit of an issue, but bounced back nicely in his last start against the Atlanta Braves. Has been a little bit more rough on the road rather than at home, but still has been able to post up a sub 3.75 ERA on the road, and he's backed up by a bullpen that, if you look since the beginning of the month of June, I know that we talked about this with Rob Donaldson, but it has been a Miami Marlins bullpen that hasn't been bad. Is it amazing? No, but at the same time, you've got quite a few guys going out there give you a sub 3.50 ERA overall for the season, as you've been able to have that out of the likes of Kate Gibson, Ronnie Enriquez, Anthony Bender, even Calvin Fauché is down to about a 3.35 ERA. So these guys have done a nice job holding down the fort, and for the Miami Marlins, this has been a lineup that has been rough recently, with Kyle Stowers being on the injured list, nearly a 370 on base, being able to supply 25 home runs. That's something that the team could very much use right now, but you still do have Augusto Ramirez supplying 18 home runs, albeit only hitting about a 228 now, but you've got other guys that are able to move the line, like you've got Xavier Edwards at the top hitting for about a 285. Liam Mix has been able to provide a 355 on base. Roberto Hernandez, in a small sample size, 325 on base, 7 home runs in his first 175 at-bats, and Jacob Barcia is hitting like a 350, so that's been great. And for the New York Mets, this is a little bit of top-heavy lineup, as they are averaging nearly 4.8 runs per game at home, and they do have some boppers in there, so you've got a quartet of guys with at least 20 home runs. Juan Soto, along with Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, all there, and for Alonso, about a 350 on base. Lindor's now hitting about a 270. He was dealing with that lower body injury for much of the season. He looks to be fully healthy now, and Juan Soto continues to give you about a 390 on base. And then at the bottom of the lineup, Jeff McNeil, Mark Vientos, Brett Beatty, all posting up between 12 and 15 home runs, lying in the neighborhood of a 243 to a 253, with McNeil give you closer to about a 345 on base. And Starling Marte has been able to move the line as well, so this has been encouraging. What has not been encouraging for the Mets has been the bullpen, 26th in the big leagues in terms of ERA since the beginning of the month of June, as Ryan Helsley, man, he has not been great to say the least. You have been able to get some good production though out of Brooks Raley, who's giving you a sub 2 ERA. Gregory Soto, since coming over, has been solid, but he's been lucky. He's been credited with a lot of unearned runs thus far to be able to protect his ERA. He's not necessarily a guy that I'm bullish on, but Edwin Diaz has been able to do a solid job. In the end, I do think that the Marlins are being a little bit dog here. I set my money line price at a plus 146, so being able to get the plus 150 plus, I'm in on the Miami Marlins, and I'm going to be in on the total under, so my total is 7.9. 9-3, 9-4 on the betting board. The Atlanta Braves are on the road. They're facing off against the Philadelphia Phillies. Christopher Sanchez is on the bump for the Phillies, and this should be our good friend and Chris Sale going for the Atlanta Braves. This is a game that is presently off the board, and I'm currently seeing an opener on FanDuel of a minus 142 for the Phillies, plus 120 for the Braves. That tells you that they're thinking that it's going to be Chris Sale as well, with a total of 7.5. Over is minus 105. The under is minus 115, and if this is not Chris Sale, you're probably looking at a 60-cent difference in this money line, maybe even a little bit more, but I set the Phillies at a minus 138. Right now, that FanDuel opener is a minus 142. They typically give out awful straddles, so we should be finding this going a little bit more towards like a minus 135 or so, and if we could get that, I'd be willing to lay. Christopher Sanchez has been absolutely tremendous as far this season, as he's mitigating hard contact, he's getting strikeouts, he's doing it all. 2.66 ERA, 2.66 fielding independent, 9.6 strikeouts, and 0.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings, so this has been absolutely tremendous. And then you've also been able to get some good production out of Yohan Duran in that bullpen, who's been able to give you a sub 225 ERA this season. Then Matt Strom, Tanner Banks, Ryan Kirkring, these guys are giving you a sub 335 ERA as well. So it's a Phillies team that their pitching is really coming along for the ride. The bullpen was a little bit of an issue towards the beginning part of the season, but now these guys are performing much better, and they face off against an Atlanta Braves lineup that you want to talk about a bunch has been able to come alive ever since the All-Star break. This has been one of the most most fearsome lineups out there in all of baseball. As a matter of fact, where the Atlanta Braves, the only team that's averaging more runs per game since the All-Star break in the National League, have been the Philadelphia Phillies and the Milwaukee Brewers. As for the Atlanta Braves, you've got Matt Olson along with Marcell Ozuna. Both give you over a 355 on base, 20 plus home runs out of both of these guys. Ronald Acuna Jr. continues to give you that north of a 400 on base. He's been rock solid. You've been able to get good production out of Michael Harris. Would like to see that on base percentage higher than 273, but 17 home runs, hitting at 250. Ozzie Albies, he's back above a 300 on base. He's been able to give you 13 home runs. So these guys have been solid. And the Drake Baldwin along Sean Murphy at the catcher spot, a combined 30 home runs. For the Braves, bullpen has been an issue. You've had Raciel Iglesias and Aaron Bummer live up to their names, both above a 370 ERA. That's not great, but Pierce Johnson has been able to give you sub 225 ERA since they brought over Tyler Kinley. He's actually been relatively solid for this team. You've been able to get some good innings as well to Dylan Lee with about a 335 ERA, so it is an interesting circumstance against a Philadelphia Phillies team that has Kyle Schwarber just absolutely ripping it up. A 4-home run game earlier in this series. He's up to now 49 bombs, and he might be able to find his way back into the MVP hunt with the way that he's playing right now. 370 on base. Around him, you just don't have as much production as you've had in past years, but Bryce Harper is picking it up. 22 home runs, 360 on base. You've got a lot of guys that are able to move the line, like JT Realmuto, Brandon Marsh, Armando Sosa, hitting between a 262 to 272. Trey Turner sitting at 300 with 14 home runs. So these guys have been very encouraging. I do think that in the end, the Philadelphia Phillies should be able to get to Chris Sale a little bit here, just because with Chris Sale, when he's at full force, he's obviously one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. We saw that on full display last season, but for Sale, he's just dealt with so many injuries here throughout his career, and especially this year. This is going to be his first start since the middle of June. He made a few minor league rehab starts to be able to prep for this, and in the minor league rehab starts, he made 3 of them in total. 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, did not give up any home runs, but he only went 10 2/3 innings across 3 starts. So I just have to question the length a little bit. So did some I told at some point at a 7.5. I'm in on the over, and for the Phillies, we'll lay up to minus 137 on the money line. 9-5, 9-6 on the card. The St. Louis Cardinals are on the road against the Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. Moves on to Andrew Abbott getting the start for them. Michael McGreevy is on the bump for St. Louis, and St. Louis does find themselves as a underdog of between plus 128 to a plus 138, and between minus 144 to a minus 157. That number on the Red Legs, and total is 8.5. Over is minus 120. The under is even. Some I tell it an 8.4, so I'm going to be in on the under for Andrew Abbott. He has just been impressive thus far this season. Not necessarily going to give you a whole bunch of swing and miss with about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 264 ERA, 1 home run, and 2.4 walks allowed per 9 innings, albeit that fielding dependent with him not getting a lot of strikeouts is darn near a full point higher, and he is backed up by a bullpen that is okay. Not amazing, not terrible. Tony Santillan, Emilio Pagan, both posting up in ERA, hovering right around 3. Pagan gives up a few too many home runs, but overall has been solid. And then the likes of Brent Suter, Lewis May, giving you about a 350 ERA. Graham Ashcraft just a little bit above that as a long guy. They have been solid, and for the Cardinals, this team has actually been able to do a really good job in their bullpen, and you just don't know what you're going to be able to get out of Michael McGreevy, who does a nice job of not hurting himself. 1.3 walks, 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but fewer than 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's a big reason why he's got the 443 ERA, but he is also rocking a 369 fielding dependent. That tells me that he's doing for a little bit of positivity, and then with the Cardinals, you've got a bullpen that has been pretty serviceable thus far this season, as you currently have John King on the injury list, but likes of Jojo Romero, Riley O'Brien, Matt Savance, and Kyle Leahy, these guys have been able to give you a sub 345 ERA. Oriel Alcala has been a little bit miserable thus far this season, but looked a little bit better when he was with the Boston Red Sox, so they're taking a little bit of a gambler's stab there. The big thing for the Cardinals is you're just dealing with so many injuries right now. Alec Burleson, Victor Scott, Brandon Donovan, Nolan Arenado, all currently on the injury list. Wilson Contreras is out there, but he's facing a suspension for some sort of tirade. 19 home runs, 345 on base. And these young guys just have not stepped up for the team. Scott, who's currently on the injured list. Jordan Walker, the catcher, and Pedro Baez. A lot of guys hitting at 235 or lower. Nolan Gorman just has not been able to move the line and get on base rate as well, though Ivan Herrera has been solid, hitting just below 300. His on base percentage of right around about a 350 has been solid for this team. So I do think that you're going to get a relatively solid pitcher's duel here, especially with a Cincinnati Reds team that outside of Elliot Cruz, there's just not a lot of guys that enlist fear into you. Now, For the Cincinnati Reds, they have been about a league average to slightly above average offense with a lot of guys that just sort of know their role. TJ Friedel, Gavin Lux, both above a 350 in terms of their on-base percentage. You've had Neovalli Marte supply 11 home runs, hitting at 295. Spencer Steer's up to 16 home runs, so he's only hanging at 235. But all in all, I do think that the Reds are going to have the better pitching performance here, and I do think that Andrew Abbott gets the job done. What I think is going to be a little bit of a lower scoring game, semi-total at an 8.4. So here at the 8.5, I'm in on the under. And with the Reds, I did set their money line price at a minus 173. I'm seeing that minus 144 out there. Personally, I would rather go money line than run line. So looking at a chalkier money line with the Reds to go along with this total under. 907, 908 on the card. The Cubs are on the road facing off against the Colorado Rockies as it is one Mr. McCade Brown on the bump for the Rockies and Javier Assad is on the bump for the Cubs. And total on this game is between 11 and 11.5. On the 11, the over is minus 120, the under is even. On the 11.5, under is minus 120, the over is even. For the Cubs, they're between minus 190 to minus 208 favorites, plus 168 to a plus 175 is that number on the Colorado Rockies. And if you're looking to lay a run half with the Cubs, again, these FanDuel openers with regards to run lines could sometimes be a little bit wonky, but right now find that at a minus 126. Sign me up there. I set mine at a minus 157 as for Javier Assad, this is going to be start number 4 of the season for him. Does own a 3.88 ERA, but he has been giving up some hard contact, 1.3 home runs at just 5.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Has never really been a strikeout artist. 498 fielding independent, so that should be going northward a little bit. But McCade Brown never pitched at the AAA level. He went straight from AA up to the big leagues, and part of that is because if he did go to the AAA level, it's a juice ball league out there in the Pacific Coast League, and pitchers' ERAs just go to die. But that said, for McCade Brown, 3 2/3 innings in his MLB debut against the Pirates, he gives up 4 runs, very much less than savory, especially when you're backed up by a bullpen that is currently 29th in the big leagues in terms of ERA. Victor Vodnik has been solid, along with Jimmy Harrigan. Both of these guys have been able to give you sub 375 ERA. Jane Nill has been able to give you a few okay innings, but you just have a lot of guys out there that have been rocking ERAs above a 5. Seth Alverson is on the injured list, so that's another guy that's out of the fold for them. Nick Anderson, Ryan Rolson, Luis Peralta. It's not good. And for the Colorado Rockies, this team is in the bottom 3 in the big leagues in terms of total runs per game, albeit their offense is much better at home rather than on the road. But, I mean, they enter in the series averaging about 4.55 runs per game at home. That's outside the top 12 in the big leagues, and they play at Coors Field. That's an issue. Hunter Goodman has not been an issue. He's been able to 270 with 26 home runs, actually getting more home runs away from home rather than at home. But, I mean, even with some of these guys at Coors Field, they've had their issues, like Orlando Arcia along with Kyle Farmer. Both of these guys hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. You just have not been able to get much whatsoever out of some of these ancillary guys, like a young Kel Fernandez has a 239 on base at home thus far this season. So it's been a very much up-down all around. You got Brenton Doyle has been able to above a 310 home runs. That's been pretty rock solid. And for the Chicago Cubs, ever since the All-Star break, they and the St. Louis Cardinals averaging 3.8 runs per game. That's actually been dead last in the big leagues, but I think that this is a perfect bounce-back opportunity for this offense. Pico Armstrong, Seiya Suzuki, a combined 55 home runs entering into the series. You've seen Suzuki's batting average fall to like a 245. You need Craig Counsell to stand up for his guys. He's been getting the short end of the stick in a lot of situations. You've got Kyle Tucker giving you 21 home runs, 375 on base. Michael Busch, 25 bombs, 340 on base. Carson Kelly continues to move the line with about a 350 on base. So loving what I'm seeing there. And for the Cubs, this continues to be a relatively solid bullpen that's in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of ERA. They did get rid of Chris Flexen mid-season, but you've got the likes of Caleb Theobar, Drew Pomeranz, Daniel Palencia, Brad Keller, all give you a sub-235 ERAs. They're back without Ryan Presley once again, which that's not necessarily a bad thing for the team, and I do think that Assad goes out there, dominates, and I do think that the Cubs get to Mr. McCade Brown, so my total 11.8, so I do like the over, and for the Cubs, I'm going to be willing to lay up to a minus 155 on that run line. 9-9, 9-10 on the betting board. It's the Arizona Diamondbacks on the road against the LA Dodgers as Tyler Glasnow is on the bump for the Dodgers, and Eduardo Rodriguez goes for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And after the total, the over and the under, both at minus 110, with the Dodgers are between minus 207, minus 220 favorites, and between plus 178 to a plus 190 is that number on the Arizona Diamondbacks. And set my money line price at a minus 232. I'm going to be willing to lay it with the LA Dodgers, as for Tyler Glasnow, he does need to tone down the walks a little bit, but all in all, ever since he's come off the injury list, he's been very rock solid for a Dodgers team that very much needed him. him to be rock solid coming off the injury list. Overall for the season, a 3.36 ERA, but 3 earned runs or fewer in all but one of his starts is coming off the injury list. Believe that's 10 in total. He's still getting 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. Again, the 4.7 walks per 9 innings, that's an issue. 3.36 ERA compared to a 4.19 field independent, but he's been limiting the deep ball a little bit more. Just 1 home run allowed across his last 3 starts, and he's backed up by a bullpen that's all of a sudden getting a little bit more healthy as Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott are back in the fold after they were missing for quite some time, albeit both of these guys rocking above a 3.60 ERA. Jack Dreyer has been very rock solid in this bullpen as he's been able to supply them with a sub 3.25 ERA. It's been a little bit up down all around for Alex Vecchio's now on the injury list, so that hurts them quite a bit as well. But Justin Robelski as a long guy has actually been relatively solid, and for the Dodgers, they're averaging 5.7 runs per game at home. That is number 1 in all of baseball. Now, without Max Muncy in the month of July, they were a bottom half of the big league team in terms of run scoring, so that does hamper things a little bit, but still Shohei Ohtani doing Shohei Ohtani things. 45 home runs at a 390 on base. You've got Andy Paz is up to 23 bombs, hitting at 275. Teoscar Hernandez doesn't really draw any walks, but he continues to give you 21 home runs. Will Smith is also continuing to get jiggy with it, a 400 base. He's up to 16 home runs. Freddie Freeman has been in and out of the lineup the last few days with injury, so that's been a little bit of an issue, but all in all, pretty fearsome team aside from the fact that Michael Conforto continues to be miserable this season. Then on the other end, you've got a bunch that has been very much up and down with regards to their offense in the years in the Diamondbacks, but still a top 8 team in terms of runs per game. This despite the fact that they traded away Eugenio Suarez and also traded away Josh Chandler at the trade deadline. You've had Geraldo Perdomo be one of the main constants for the team with a 390 on base and 15 home runs. Corbin Carroll, 27 bombs, hitting at 255. Had a little bit of rough go of it coming off the injury list, but last few weeks has been much better for this team. You've got a catcher spot that has been very much a turnstile, but James McCann has been able to fortify that with about a 315 on base, and Lourdes Gurriel up to 19 home runs as well, while Ketel Marte, 390 on base, 23 home runs. He has not provided a lot of power here in the second half of the season, but continues to get on base. Here's the issue that you've got for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So the overall pitching, as Eduardo Rodriguez has not had a great year, but I mean the bullpen has been even worse as you've got these guys like a Kyle Bacchus, Jake Woodford, Juan Murillo, so many guys. They're posting up above a 4 ERA, though Andrew Selfrank has been solid. This is a bottom 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA, though, and for Rodriguez, 5.67 ERA, 4.67 fielding dependent, as he's still getting darn near 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 3.6 walks, 1.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He's given up at least 4 runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts, very much less than savory. And for Eduardo Rodriguez, when he's hit the road thus far this season, that ERA has been pretty much consistent to where it's been at home at a 5.65, so no real upgrade or downgrade. And I do think that the Dodgers get to him, hit him pretty hard, so I might tell 9.1, so I like that over. And the Dodgers up to a minus 120 on that run line. Right now, that initial FanDuel opener is minus 110. We'll be willing to lay that minus 110 to go along with its total over. 9-11, 9-12 on the card. The New York Yankees are on the road. They're facing off against the Chicago White Sox as Shane Smith is on the bump for the Southsiders and Cam Schlittler is on the bump for the Yankees, and the Yankees find themselves as very sizable favorites. You're going to be finding them between minus $2, seeing as high as a minus 220 out there on them. Between plus 175 to a plus 185 is that number on the White Sox with a total of 9. The under is between minus 120 to a minus 125. Over is between even and plus 105, seeing one straight 8.5. That over is minus 120, and the under is even. And I'm going to be able to take a shot on the White Sox. We talked about this with Rob Donaldson. Plus 160 or higher was my buy point on the White Sox, and Schlittler has been very rock solid for the New York Yankees. He was a really good swing and miss guy at the minor league level. He has come up to the big league level, and he's been effective thus far. Not to the point of a 2.76 ERA effective, though. 4.21 fielding dependent, 1.3 home runs, and 4 walks allowed per 9 innings. He is getting those 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, and in his 8 starts, he has allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in every one of them, and has really dialed in recently. 5 runs allowed over the course of his last 5 starts, but has gotten away with a few hard hit balls, and I do think that the bottom might fall out sooner rather than later. While Shane Smith, he does give up a few too many walks for my liking. He's right in the neighborhood, about 3.8 walks per 9 innings himself, but I mean, he's been solid for the White Sox. 3.87 ERA, 4.31 fielding dependent. He's getting right around about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, only giving up 1 bomb per 9. So I look at this 9 total I'm seeing pretty much across the board, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under. You do have a White Sox team that's in the bottom 7 in the big leagues in terms of run scoring, though. If you look post All-Star break, they've actually been in the top 5 in the American League. Lennon Sosa has been your main form of power, 17 home runs, and even though the White Sox have been a little bit better with regards to generating runs here in the second half of the season, still a pretty powerless team, as outside of them, you've got a quartet of guys who have between 14 and 15 home runs: Miguel Vargas, Luis Robert, Andrew Benintendi, and Colson Montgomery, and pretty much all these guys hitting between about a 223 to a 235, so you need a little bit more consistency there. Michael A. Taylor continuing to hit for a 266 on base without a lot of power has not been great. But I will say, catcher spot, Kyle Teo, Edgar Quiero, these two guys hitting above a 280 has been pretty rock solid for the team. Mike Tauchman has been able to give about 365 on base. And for the White Sox, when it comes to the long guys in the bullpen, they've been pretty solid. It's been the short guys that have really been laying you down, along with Tyler Gilbert. He gave up 6 runs in a third of an inning a few days ago against the Royals. But the likes of Wilkman Gonzalez, Mike Vasil, they had to utilize a few days ago, Steven Wilson. These have been guys give you a sub-3.25 ERA. Tyler Alexander starting to see the bottom fall out a little bit with a 3.60 ERA, but it's been more of these short guys like Jordan Leisure, Brandon Iser posting up above a 4 ERA. And for the New York Yankees, the bullpen looks to be getting a little bit better, as you've had Luke Weaver coming off the injury list be a little bit up and down, but it feels like he's now been able to find himself after dealing with some injuries. You've had Camilo Duvall be a little bit of a disaster in this bullpen, but David Bednar, since he came over, he's been pretty rock solid. You've had Yuri De Los Santos supply a 3.35 ERA. It's had some recent struggles, but all in all, it's been solid. And Fernando Cruz now coming off the injury list, that helps this team out as well. And then for the Yankees, obviously, a team with a bunch of power. We all know what Aaron Judge is able to do, 41 home runs, 440 on base. But outside of that, trio of guys between 26 to 27 home runs entering into the series. Cody Bellinger, Trent Grisham, Jazz Chisholm. And then all three of these guys have been able to give you at least a 336 on base. Ben Rice is up to about a 345 on base with 22 home runs. You need more out of Austin Wells and Anthony Volpe in terms of just getting on base. Both of these guys hitting at 210 or lower. Both of these guys do have 18 home runs, so that's solid, but you need them to move the line. And Giancarlo Stanton, he's been doing that, 380 on base. He's getting a home run every about 10 or so at bats, but I do think that for the White Sox, they do find a way to be able to get to Schlittler a little bit. I think both of these starters are going to be solid. Some might tell it at 8.6, so like that 9 under and plus 160 or higher. I'm in on the White Sox money line, 913, 914 on the card. The Angels are on the road against the Astros, as you've got Spencer Arrighetti, Mom Spaghetti on the bum for the Astros, and the Professor Kyle Hendricks goes for the Halos. 9 is total, over and under both at -110. And for Houston, you are finding them as a pretty sizable favorite, anywhere between -160 to a -170, between +138 to a +145. That number on the Angels. +144 or higher was my buy point on the Angels. I just am not in on Spencer Arrighetti right now. I thought that he was doing for a little bit of positivity after his rookie year, but he has just been so banged up and he has been so wildly inconsistent this year. How about a 6.21 ERA with a 5.64 fielding dependent? He's only getting 7 strikeouts per 9 innings while giving up 4.5 walks per 9 innings. He has been little blaze recently, with 5+ runs allowed in 3 of his last 5 starts. Now, 1 of those starts came prior to him going on the injury list, but I mean, still, in his 4 starts since coming off the injury list, 5+ runs allowed in 2 of them. That speaks to exactly my point right there. And then for Kyle Hendricks, he has been less than savory himself. 4+ runs allowed in each out of his last 3 starts, and just doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. 4 punch-outs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts. 6 strikeouts per 9 innings this year, giving up 1.5 home runs, 2.6 walks per 9 innings, 5.44 ERA, 4.82 fielding independent. It does get a little bit worse on the road, though. Really hasn't been effective wherever he's pitched. He's got a 5.43 road ERA, and on the road he's giving up over 1.7 home runs per 9 innings. It is compounded by the fact that this LA Angels bullpen is terrible. That's the best way of being able to put it. As for the Angels, you've got Brock and Roll Burke along with Kenley Jansen give you a sub-350 ERA, but then you get into the likes of Reed Detmers, Ryan Zephyrian, Sam Bachman, Carson Fulmer, Jose Fermin, all posting up above a 4.25 ERA. That's not great, but for the Angels, even though this team is in the bottom 6 in terms of on-base percentage, they're in the top 6 in terms of home runs on a per-at-bat basis. Mike Trout, he's only hitting at 232, but at 362 on base with 20 home runs. Logan O'Hoppe, very happy about the 19 home runs, not so happy about the 264 on base. Taylor Ward is up to 30 home runs with about 320 on base. Zach Neto, 23 home runs. He's been able to hit for a 270. Joe Adell, still below 300 with regards to the on base, but 30 home runs. So you've got a lot of guys who are able to pop off. Now, the bottom of the lineup with what you've been able to get out of the likes of Travis d'Arnaud. They've been throwing out there some of these young guns like Nico Carvitas, guys like that. They just have not given you a whole lot of fly. But for the Astros, it's been a little bit up down all around with regards to this lineup as well. So Jose Altuve continues to be the main constant for this team, hitting above a 270, 22 home runs. That has been very rock solid for the team. And then you've had Yunior Diaz along with Christian Walker, both pound out at least 19 home runs this season. Neither guy's giving you above a 305 on base, but I will say for Diaz, still hitting above a 250. Needs to learn to draw a few more walks, but that's been solid. Jeremy Pena, since coming off the injury list, hasn't quite been himself, but it's still hitting above a 300 for the season. Carlos Correa, since coming on over to the Astros, has actually been very solid in an Astros uniform. He has been hitting it very, very well, so welcome back here, as he's been hitting right in the neighborhood about a 320 with 3 home runs in his first 24 games, so he's been able to fuse a little bit of light there. And for the Houston Astros, this is a bullpen that is dealing with a few injuries. Most of it will be Josh Hader being on the injury list, but you still have the likes of the Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, Caleb Ward, Stephen Okert. These guys have been pretty rock solid in that bullpen. Sands, Ort, all these guys are able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Bennett Sosa being on the injury list does hurt this team a little bit, but again, Spencer Garrity, not a guy that you necessarily want to trust in. So I might tell 9.1. So here at the 9, I do like the over, and the Angels at a plus 145 or greater on the money line. 9:15, 9:16 on the card. The Seattle Mariners are on the road against the Cleveland Guardians. Gavin Williams goes for Cleveland. Logan Gilbert is on the bump for Seattle. Seattle is a pretty sizable favorite, between minus 141 to a minus 157, plus 125 to a plus 135 is your number on Cleveland. 7.5 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and I did set my total at an 8.3. I'm going to be diving in on the over. As for Logan Gilbert, he's actually got some very demonstrative home and road splits. Overall for the season for Logan Gilbert, 3.69 ERA with 1.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He is getting about 12 and a half strikeouts per 9 innings, so he has been really good with that regard. But with Logan Gilbert, the ERA goes to 6 with 2.1 home runs allowed per 9 innings. It is 8 starts away from home. Now, I recognize that the Cleveland Guardians are a very top-heavy lineup. Jose Ramirez has been very rock solid for this team. With Jose Ramirez, he continues to give you above a 350 on base. He's been able to pound out 25-plus home runs. Steven Kwan at the top is hitting at 270, and then you got the guys at the bottom that are just giving you nothing whatsoever. CJ Kayfis, Bo Naylor, Nolan Jones, the backup catcher, Austin Hedges. You go down the list of guys hitting at 220 or lower, and then the likes of Brian Rocchio, Kyle Manzardo, Daniel Schneemann, hitting between about a 225 to a 230. Less than savory, though I will say for Mr. Manzardo, 21 home runs thus far this season. And for Seattle, this is a lineup that's able to go boom. That was indicated by the fact that they scored 4 runs in the first inning yesterday, with Randy Arozarena being able to give you 25 home runs, 335 on base. Julio Rodriguez, 25 plus bombs. He's hitting at 265, and we haven't gotten to the main 2 boppers. And Eugenio Suarez, who is not hitting for a lot of average this year with a 240, since he's gotten to Seattle hitting about a 200, but he's still up to 40 plus bombs. Cal Raleigh, big dumper, 350 on base. He's up to 50 home runs, but Josh Chandler has been able to give you that 350 on base. Dom Canzone has been able to about a 280. And then for the Seattle Mariners, this is a pretty rock solid bullpen at the top. The more middle guys like a Trent Thornton and company, these are guys that have really been having their issues. Carlos Vargas has had his problems as well, but the likes of Edward Bizardo, Matt Brash, Gabe Spire, Andres Munoz, these guys have been very rock solid for the team, give you a sub 325 ERA. And for the Guardians, this continues to be a top 6 team with regards to bullpen ERA. If you look since the beginning of the month of June, it's a top 5 bullpen, and that's been without Emmanuel Clase. Likes of Jacob Junis, Eric Zabrowski, Kate Smith, Nick Enright, I'll give you a sub 325 ERA. Hunter Gaddis has come along for the ride as well. That's been pretty solid. And for Gavin Williams, he does need to turn down the walks. As for Gavin Williams, he's got a relatively good and respectable ERA. That's right now 335, but 460 fielding dependent because he's given up 1.3 home runs and 4.7 walks per 9 innings. So do you think that you get a higher scoring affair? So I might tell it at 8.3. I like the over, but being able to get the Guardians at this big of a plus number at a plus 134 or higher, was willing to take a shot on them on the money line. 917, 918 on the card. It is the Detroit Tigers. They are on the road. They're facing off against the Kansas City Royals. Stephen Kolek makes his Royals debut, and Captain Jack Flaherty is on the bump for the Tigers. And right now, the initial opener that I'm seeing at FanDuel is the Tigers minus 120, plus 102 on the Royals with a total of 9. Overs even, and the under is minus 120. And I'd be willing to lay it with the Tigers. I set them at a minus 122. I just don't know where we're going to be able to get Stephen Kolek coming off the injured list, as he was effective with the Padres, but he's not necessarily a guy that's going to give you a lot of swings and misses. And if you look at the fielding independent numbers, probably is due him for a little bit of regression. As for Kolek, 418 ERA, 426 fielding independent, 6.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. only gave up about 0.9 home runs per 9 innings, and I think that that's a little bit of a byproduct of the fact that he was pitching in San Diego for so long, giving up about 2.9 walks per 9 innings. So he does a nice job of not hurting himself, but at the same time, not necessarily a guy that's going to blow you away. And Captain Jack Flaherty is the complete opposite. Jack Flaherty has been a flamethrower this year. He's posting up right around about 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, but is giving up 1.4 home runs, 3.3 walks per 9 innings, 4.87 ERA. But if you look at the advanced number of a 3.89 fielding dependent, doing for some positivity, but is on a miserable run right now. How about a combined 19 runs, 18 of which have been earned in his last 4 starts? So that is very much less than tremendous, and he's backed up by a bullpen that really over the last 2.5 months has been less than tremendous. You date it back to the beginning of the month of June, and the Detroit Tigers are a bottom 6 team in terms of bullpen ERA, as Will Vest has just completely went down the toilet bowl for the team. He is posting up above a 4 ERA. They had to throw Chase Lee and also Brant Herter back down to the minor leagues, which I don't understand why they've got Brant Herter down at the minor league level. That one is a little bit mystifying to me. Maybe they're trying to have him be a starter or something like that. That's the only thing I can think of, but I'd said Tyler Holton has had his ups and downs along with Will Vest. Holton is about a 3.65 ERA, though Will Vest has been pretty solid and one of the main constants for the team along with Brendan Hennessy, about a 3.35 ERA. And for the Detroit Tigers, even though it's been a little bit hot and cold with regards to the lineup, you've got really good consistency with this lineup where on any given night, you've got 8 out of your 9 players posting up a 255 average or greater. And typically, the odd man out has been Spencer Torkelson, who still gives you right around about a 330 on base and 28 home runs. Riley Green has been able to supply 32 bombs. You've got Kerry Carpenter with 22 home runs, and then you've got 6 different guys who are right now between 11 and 14 home runs. Gleyber Torres, Cole Keith, Wencio Perez, Dylan Dingler, Zach McKinstry, Javi Baez, all in between about a 259 to a 272. So that's good consistency. And for the Royals, this has been a top 8 team in terms of run production ever since the All-Star break, as Mike Yastrzemski has already gotten 3 leadoff home runs in his first 25 or so games with the Royals. Bobby Witt Jr. has continued to give you a 340 on base, 34 stolen bags, 19 home runs. Vinny Pasquantino has just been a man possessed recently. He's up to 28 home runs this far this season, but you take a look at what he's been able to do over the last, we're going to call it about 30 or so days. He's at 10 home runs in his last 1 or 2 at bats. So that's been solid, even though the batting average in that time span has been at 235. Salvador Perez, he's continued to go deep for you. He's been able to supply the team with 23 home runs. Miguel Garcia is hitting at 300. Guys at the bottom of the fold, like your Michael Massey's, have not necessarily been able to give you a whole heck of a lot. John Rave, when he's been out there, has been an issue, but for the Royals, you've got a better bullpen as well. Lucas Erceg, Carlos Aceves, both being able to supply a sub-3 ERA has been solid. John Schreiber has been able to straighten himself out as well. He's been a little bit hot and cold, but he, along with Taylor Clark, have been nice bright spots here recently, give you a sub-325 ERA. So I do think that for the Royals, they're going to be able to get some effective bullpen pitching, but I think that Jack Flaherty is going to be a little bit better here, and I do like the Tigers to be able to bust out a little bit here. So my total 9.1. So at the 9, I like the over, and with the Tigers, willing to lay up to a minus 121 on that money line. 919, 920 on the card. It is the Rangers, and they are on the road. They're facing off against the Athletics, as we do know that it is going to be one Mr. Merrill Kelly getting the start here for the Rangers, and right now it's old to be determined who's on the bump for the Athletics. This is a game that is currently off the board. Now, it was revealed by the team right around about 4 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern, that it is going to be Mason Barnett. That's a big reason why you're probably not seeing an overnight line, but you're seeing a confirmed picture of Mr. Barnett, and I've got my handicap for this. I did set the Rangers at a minus 145 on the money line. Willing to go up to a minus 144 there, plus 146 or higher. Going to be looking at the Athletics, and if I could get a plus 107 or better on the Rangers, I would be willing to lay that run line and set a total of 10.1. So a 10 or less, I'm going to be in on the over. A 10.5 or higher, I'm going to be in on this total under. For Merrill Kelly, he struggled a little bit more with the Texas Rangers rather than when he was with the Arizona Diamondbacks this year, but he's still been a pretty steady Eddie guy. For Merrill Kelly, he has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in all but one of his starts with the Rangers, and as a matter of fact, his ERA is now just a skoge lower with the Rangers. 3.22 with the Arizona Diamondbacks, 3.10 with the Rangers. Very consistent numbers. 8.1 strikeouts per 9 innings with the Rangers, 8.5 with the Arizona Diamondbacks, so he's been really good there. He's been solid at home. He's been solid on the road. Really no gripes there. And then for Barnett, this is going to be his MLB debut after he was spending a little bit of time earlier in the season with the Athletics. I believe that he spent some time with the Royals about a year or two ago as well. And with the Athletics this year, he is rocking a 6.13 ERA with Las Vegas out there, the Las Vegas Aviators in the PCL. That's a juice ball league where you're pitching in heat, you're pitching in elevation. The ERA, if you could post like a sub 450 ERA in the PCL, you're really doing something right. I don't have high expectations for him because gets a 5 walks per 9 innings is not something that's correctable, but if you look throughout his career when he was with the Royals, he was consistently getting 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. I think he's better than what the ERA would indicate at the minor league level, but I still think that he's going to get a little bit torched, and he's backed up by a bullpen that's just not good, to say the least. With the Athletics currently in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, you have had a few guys like a Sean Newcomb, Michael Kelly be able to give you sub 350 ERA. All of a sudden, Rob Verotto has not been too bad either, but then you take a look at the likes of Tyler Ferguson, Justin Sterner, Hogan Harris. These guys have been able to give you north of a 375 ERA. That's been less than savory. Oswaldo Beto was serving as a long guy. Now they're having to trot him out there as a starter, and it is a ace lineup that is a little bit top heavy in that you've got a quartet of guys who have been able to hit at least 23 home runs, and all 4 of these guys have been able to give you a batting average as above a 260 right now. Shea Banks, Shea Langoliers has been giving you 29 home runs. Tyler Soderstrom, 275 average with 23 bombs. Brent Rooker hitting for a 340 on base, 26 home runs. And Nick Kurtz, 400 on base with 27 home runs. Now you've got Jacob Wilson back in the fold. He's hitting above a 300, so that's pleasing for the team. They have had J.J. Bleday give you a whole bunch of nothing, though, at the bottom of the lineup. Whenever you've had Max Schumann out there, he's been hitting right around about a 200. They had to send him down to the minor league level, but now you've got Denzel Clark on the injured list, along with Max Muncy, the wrong Max Muncy, so it is very much a top-heavy team. And for the Rangers, if you look ever since the beginning of the month of July, this has been a top 5 offense in the big leagues, with Kyle Higashioka hitting well above a 300 in this time span. Now, they're dealing with some injuries. Marcus Semien has been out of the lineup for this team, so that's been a little bit of an issue, but you've got Wyatt Langford, Adolis Garcia, along Corey Seager. I'll give you 18-plus home runs. Now, Seager was missing yesterday, so you do want to be noting that, but Langford has been able to give you about a 335 or so on base. You've had Ezekiel Durham be really useless for this team, and Jonah Hyman's been hitting about a 220 as well, but that said, you've been able to have Josh Young do a nice job move the line. He's up to 12 home runs, and with this Rangers bullpen, they have been in the top 6 in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. You've had Robert Garcia start to toil up a little bit, and Phil Matone and Daniel Kalum, these are guys that overall for the season have a sub 3 ERA, haven't been overly effective for the Rangers, but you've got Hobie Milner, Sean Armstrong, who have been able to give you a sub 3 ERA, and I do think that for the Rangers, they do a solid job of being able to support Merrill Kelly here, so minus 144 or better looking at the Rangers, plus 146 or higher looking at the Athletics, and then a 10 or less, I'm in on the over 10.5 or higher, the under. 921, 922 on the card. The Brewers are on the road facing off against the Blue Jays, as you've got Mr. Kevin Gausman on the bump for the Jays, and Quinn Priester goes for Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a underdog of anywhere between plus 122 to a plus 131. Minus 140 to a minus 150 is that number on Toronto. 8.5 is the total, over and under both at minus 110, and I did set the Brewers as a plus 139 underdog, so one to go up to a minus 139, which I'm seeing one pop onto the board right now. I'd be willing to go up to that minus 139 and not a hair more, and if you are looking at that initial FanDuel opener with regards to laying run out for the Blue Jays, that's currently a plus 136. I would need closer to about a plus 144 to be able to fire in there, but as long as we can get below a minus 140, I'm not going to worry about that run line. I would rather have the money line anyway, because with Quinn Priester, he is dealing with a little bit of a wrist issue, it sounded like, from the Milwaukee Brewers. That's why his start was skipped a few days ago. That led to the Eric Fetty bulk game, and for Priester, he's not quite as good as the 11-2 record indicates. 344 ERA, 437 field independent. He's only getting 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1.2 home runs, 3.2 walks allowed per 9 innings. He's been really effective in terms of just mitigating damage, and has actually been a little bit better on the road with a 3.18 ERA on the road, but he's still giving up right around about 1.2 to 1.3 home runs per 9 innings away from home. And then for Kevin Gausman, his fielding independent and his ERA match up very perfectly. 3.87 ERA, 3.77 fielding independent. He's giving up about 1.2 home runs, 2.5 walks per 9 innings. Has to face off against a Milwaukee Brewers team that is just absolutely raked when they've been away from home. How about 5.6 runs per game away from home? That leads the next best team by 0.3 of a run in the New York Yankees. It's been absolutely incredible, and this despite the fact that they've only got one healthy player in the roster that's been able to supply over 15 home runs this year, with Jackson Trio currently on the injured list. That's been Christian Yelich, 26 bombs, 350 on base, but you just look up and down the boulevard. All but 2 of the guys entered into the day on Friday in the starting lineup hitting for at least a 332 on base. Your oddballs were Blake Perkins along with Andrew Vaughn, and Andrew Vaughn in a Brewers uniform has about a 360 on base. So he has been rock solid. That just dated back to his White Sox days. You've had Caleb Durbin really step up. He's been moved the line recently for this team. Now the Brewers in their most recent series against the Diamondbacks last 2 games prior to the game on Friday, 3 of 24 have been in scoring position. Have to wonder if things are starting to dry up and if the luck box is starting to run out a little bit. Meanwhile, For the Blue Jays, this is a team averaging between 5.3 to 5.4 runs per game at home. That is number one in the American League, and you've got some mashers out there. George Springer, 24 bombs, 390 on base, 390 on base with 21 home runs for Vlad Guerrero Jr. And then you've had a lot of guys be able to step up with between 15 and 18 home runs. Edison Barger, Bo Bichette, and Dalton Varsho. And for Varsho, he's getting a home run every 11 at-bats. 280 on base, would like to see that improve, but he's been able to pound out the deep ball. Edison Barger is sitting about at 250. Bichette has been able to 300. Don't call his name. Alejandro Kirk has been rock solid for this team as well. You do have a few ailments that you're right now dealing with the Blue Jays. They did just get back George Springer, spent a little bit of time on the injury list. Ernie Clement has been day-to-day, but these guys have been solid. And overall, it's a Blue Jays bullpen that's been about league average. Braden Fisher, Brandon Little, Uriel Rodriguez providing a sub-345 ERA. They pick up Louis Varland from the Twins. Hasn't been as effective with the Blue Jays, but overall for the season has been solid. Sir Anthony Dominguez is a guy that I really don't trust, and Jeff Hoffman has had himself a pretty miserable season, to say the least, along Chad Green. And then for the Brewers, ever since the beginning of the month of June, this has been a top 8 team with regards to bullpen ERA. They had Yo Piams, Elvis Figueroa absolutely fail out for them at the beginning part of the season, so they had to pick up the pieces. They trade for Shelby Miller at the deadline. He, Nick Mears, along with Aaron Ashby, Abner Uribe, these are all guys giving you a sub-325 ERA whenever they've had to rely upon DL Hall's a long guy. He's been able to do a solid job as well, but Quinn Priester going to give up some runs. I do think that the Brewers get to Kevin Gausman a little bit more here, so I did set my total at 8.8, like the over, and for the Blue Jays, willing to lay up to a -139 on that money line. 923, 924 on the card. It is the Rays on the road against the Washington Nationals. Ryan Pepiot goes for the Rays, and Jake Irvin for the Nationals. 9 is the total. Over is -115 to -120. Under is between -105 to a -110, -142 to a -155. That number on the Rays, +123 to a +132. That number on Washington. I did set my Rays money line price at a -146, so want to lay up to a -145 there. For Ryan Pepiot, he is doing for a little bit of regression, but overall he has been able to get a little bit more swing and miss here recently. For Pepiot, the big issue that you do have with him has been the deep ball this far this season, as he is allowing 1.5 home runs and 3.1 walks per 9 innings, but back up right around about 8.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, so that's been something encouraging, and no home runs allowed in his last 2 starts, so yay verily there. And for Ryan Pepiot, I've noticed this, he's got some funky home and road splits as well. As for Ryan Pepiot on the road this far this season, he's been posting up a 4.50 ERA compared to a 3.25 ERA at home, despite the fact that at home he's giving up 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. On the road, closer to about 1.15 home runs per 9 innings, so puzzle me that. Meanwhile, for Jake Irvin, at home, on the road, on the moon, he has not really been very good this year. He's not a guy that's going to give you a lot of swings and misses, as he's posting up 6 strikeouts per 9 innings, all while giving up 1.8 home runs, 3.2 walks per 9 innings. 5.40 ERA, 5.48 fielding independent. He has given up 3+ runs in every one of his starts here in the month of August. Not great to say the least. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, they entered into the series number 12 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. You've got Junior Caminero, who's been not drawing a lot of walks, but he's been giving you a bunch of bombs, 39 home runs. He's been able to hit above a 255 for the season. Yandy Diaz hitting about a 285 with 22 bombs. And then Brandon Lau, who spent quite a bit of time on the injury list. He's come back, giving this team 26 bombs, about a 320 on base. You've had Jake Magnum do a nice job of sealing some bags along Chandler Simpson. With Magnum, 285 average, 20 stolen bases. Simpson, 38 stolen bases and 310 at-bats, hitting for darn near 300. That's been great. Now, it's a top-heavy lineup, as you've had the likes of Taylor Walls, the catcher spot, Christopher Morel, guys like this, Cameron Misner when he's been out there as he's dealing with injury, hitting below a 225, and for the Rays, I really just don't know what they're doing with this bullpen, because Eric Orze was very solid in this bullpen to begin the season. They've got along Cole Sulzer at the minor league level, but they're trotting out there the likes of Griffin Jackson, Brian Baker, who have been awful for this team, but Pete Fairbanks continues to supply a sub-3 ERA. Garrett Clevenger has been very rock solid as well, and then with the Washington Nationals, there's just no hope for this bullpen. I wish I could put it any other way, but gosh, these guys are dead last in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and I don't know if there's a single reliable guy that you can even think of in this bullpen right now, as Clayton Beater has been able to give you a 3.60 ERA, and BJ Poulin, I guess in 12 appearances he hasn't been awful, but I mean past that, everyone else is rocking above a 4.20 ERA. Connor Bilkington, Jose Ferrer, Shinkuzi Ogasawara, Jackson Rutledge, Orlando Rabalta, Edward Salazar. Like, man, this is not great. And for the Washington Nationals, they average about 4.5 to 4.6 runs per game away from home, only about 4 runs per game at home. James Wood is giving you good Wood, 26 home runs, 355 on base, and CJ Abrams hitting for about a 270 with 17 home runs. All but 3 of those home runs have come on the road, though. Josh Bell, since the beginning of the month of July, hitting above a 250. He's up to 16 bombs, 325 on base, but Young guys have not really stepped up. Dalen Lyles hitting for a 265, but really without a lot of power. Andre Chaparro, Robert Hassel, these guys are giving you less than a 280 on base. Brady House is giving you 249 on base, so that's not necessarily savory. So do you think that the Rays go out there, get the job done, get to Jake Irvin? Semi-total 9.1, so like the 9 over, and the Rays up to a minus 145 on the money line. 925, 926 on the card. The Pirates are on the road against the Red Sox as Dustin May hopes that it's May Day as he goes for the Sox, and you don't mess with the Johan Oviedo is on the bum for the Pirates. 9 is the total, over and under both at minus 110, with the Red Sox there anywhere between minus 170 to a minus 182 favorites, between plus 149 to a plus 155 is that number on the Pirates. And if you're looking to lay run half right now with the Boston Red Sox, you're going to be getting a plus 116 there. I was willing to go up to a minus 111, so I'm going to be willing to lay that run line. For Dustin May, he's been much better with the Boston Red Sox than he was with the LA Dodgers. Sometimes these guys just need a change of scenery, and for Dustin May, he has just throughout his career dealt with a lot of major surgery. Now he's finally healthy. He might be just hitting that peak form. He does have a 4.50 ERA in his 4 starts with the Red Sox, but his swing and miss stuff is up. He's getting 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. His walks per 9 rate with the Dodgers was 3.7. That's down to 3.2 with the Red Sox. Now, I did have a disastrous start on the road against the Yankees, giving up 5 runs there, but now he gets to go up against a Pittsburgh Pirates team that I recognize that the lineup has been a little bit better recently, but they're still dead stinking last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, so that's very much less than tremendous. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, you've got 3 guys on the roster with above 8 home runs this season, and it's August 30th. That's not great. Brian Reynolds, O'Neill Cruz, and Andrew McCutchen are those 3 guys, but with O'Neill Cruz, he's not hitting for average along with so many other guys on the team as he, Alexander Canario, Lovar Piguero, Henry Davis, Jared Trollo, all hitting at 225 or lower, so that's less than amazing. Isaiah Canaro-Falefa, along with Tommy Pham, even Nick Gonzalez, these guys hitting right around about at 265, 275 is solid, but they don't give you anything other than really singles. And for the Boston Red Sox, the team has just been very good in terms of moving the line in general. Roman Anthony, nearly a 400 on base, not supplying a ton of power, but he's been solid. And then have a lot of guys hitting between about a 245 to a 260 or so, as you've got that out of Carlos Narvaez, Nick Sogard, Ceddanne Rafaela, Jaron Duran, Trevor Story, and Story's up to over 20 home runs this season. Duran has been able to do a nice job swiping some bags. Masataka Yoshida has been a little bit up and down, hitting just a 235 since coming off the injury list, but Ceddanne Rafaela, 14 plus home runs, he's been able to about a 250, and the Red Sox saving grace has really been the bullpen this year. Top 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. You've got the likes of Steven Matz, Garrett Woodlock, along with Justin Wilson, Aroldis Chapman, all supplying a sub 325 ERA, and Chapman has been able to supply a sub 150 ERA with darn near 13 strikeouts per 9 innings. And for the Pirates, the bullpen ERA is slightly above average. You've had Isaac Madsen, Dennis Santana be constants for the team all season long, being able to supply a sub 3 ERA, but then you've got the likes of Yohan Ramirez, Colin Olderman, guys like this are posting up a 5 or greater ERA. That's a bit of an issue. And for Johan Oviedo, he has been banged up for much of the season, and just throughout his career has never really been a guy that's been that good in terms of either getting strikeouts or necessarily keeping the walks down. For his career, 8 strikeouts, 4.3 walks per 9 innings. 3-start sample size, 12.5 strikeouts per 9 innings is actually very rock solid. I don't think that this is going to be something that's going to be long-lasting, though. At the minor league level, when he was making his rehab starts, he was looking relatively okay there, as well as when he was rehabbing 3.12 ERA, 12.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. I just don't think that that's going to be long-lasting. Red Sox do a nice job of not swinging and missing. I do think that they get to him here, so I did set my total at a 9.1. I like the 9 over, and the Red Sox on the run line. 927, 928 on the betting board. It is the Slam Diego Padres, and they're on the road. They are facing up against the Minnesota Twins. Taj Jonquil and Milton Bradley is on the bump for the Twins, and Nick Pivetta is on the bump for the Padres. This is a game that's off the board because it was not confirmed as to whether or not we were going to be getting Bradley or not, but I've got my handicap. I did set a total of an 8.8, 8.5 or less. I'm in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under, and for the Padres, made their money line price of minus 146, so I'm willing to lay up to a minus 145 there, plus 147 or higher. I'm going to be looking at the Minnesota Twins. For Taj Bradley, the bottom is just completely fallen out for this guy. I really had a lot of promise for him 2 seasons ago. His swing and miss stuff is just way down this year. First 2 years at the big league level, 10 plus strikeouts per 9 innings. He is now getting for the season 7.4 strikeouts to 3.5 walks per 9 innings. Albeit he's been better in controlling the deep ball, allowing 1.1 home runs per 9 innings this season. But I mean, it doesn't matter if he's been with the Twins or if he's been with the Rays. Rough in his first start with the Twins, 7 runs allowed in 5 innings, just less than tremendous there. And for Nick Pivetta, he has been much better when he has been at home rather than when he's been on the road. We all know about the struggles that he had in terms of giving up up the deep ball. When he was with the Boston Red Sox, would always have an ERA that would be higher in Fenway rather than on the road, and that is noted by the fact that it's a 3.43 road ERA compared to a 2.39 ERA at home this season. But I mean, even on the road this year, he's been giving up about 1.1 to 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. He's still been rock solid there. The overall season numbers bear that out, as overall for the season, he is posting up 9.5 strikeouts to 1 home run allowed per 9 innings. He's kept the walks down with only about 2.5 walks per 9 innings, 282 ERA, 332 fielding dependent. And he goes up against a Minnesota Twins team that's relatively gutted in terms of lineup. So Byron Buxton, who's been able to supply 25 home runs, his on-base percentage hovering in the neighborhood about a 330 or so. So he's been able to do a nice job there. Trevor Larnach, Brooks Lee, both hitting in the neighborhood of a 242, 250, combined 30 home runs. Those two guys, that's been pretty solid as well. But you trade away the likes of Carlos Correa, Ty France, all those guys, and that's an issue. And for Cody Clemens, even though he's been able to give you some of the deep ball, 14 home runs, he's still hitting at 216 with a 284 on base. Luke Keckshiel has been really good in terms of getting on base. 4 home runs in his first 100 at-bats, overall 4 on base. Love to see that, but Eduardo Juliana is hitting below the Bedose line of 200. Whenever Christian Vasquez was out there, he was just about as useful as a poopy-flavored lollipop. They're getting nothing out of the catcher spot right now outside of Ryan Jeffers. Jeffers has been able to give you about a 350 on base. And then for the bullpen, you trade away Danny Kalum, Yohan Duran, all those rock-solid guys, and now you're left with absolutely nothing whatsoever, as Cody Funderburk has now become one of your more trustworthy relievers, as for Funderburk, Cole Sands, along with Michael Tonkin, all these guys are posting up a north of 380 ERA. Pearson Ewell has become a little bit of a bulk guy. He's rocking an above 5 ERA. And then on the other end for the San Diego Padres, this team is number 1 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Even though Robert Suarez has blown a few games late, he's still posting up a sub 315 ERA. And then you just have so many different guys that have been rock solid all season long. Mason Miller, since coming on over to the Padres, has been much better than he was with the A's. And then you got Jason Adam, along with David Morgan, Wandy Peralta, Adrian Morejon. These guys all give you a sub-3 ERA. Jeremiah Estrada has seen a little bit of a rise in his ERA. He's now posting up closer to about a 340. But the big thing for the Padres is getting the deep ball going. They're actually in the bottom 4 in the big leagues in terms of home runs out of per at-bat basis. But Ramon Laureano over at 340 on base with 20 home runs. He was a good pickup at the deadline. Ryan O'Hearn hasn't necessarily cranked out the deep ball, but it's still giving you over a 360 on base for the season. Manny Machado, 21 home runs, a 350 on base. Fernando Tatis Jr., 370 on base. He's up to 18 home runs. Xander Bogaerts, since the beginning of the month of June, hitting just below 300. He's been effective for the team. Gavin Sheets is up to 18 home runs. Jake Cronenworth now hitting closer to 250 with a 360 on base. So these guys have been very promising. So in this circumstance, minus 145 or better. Looking at the Pods, plus 147 or higher. The Twins, and then 8.5 or less. In on the over, 9 or higher. The under, and wrap things up with 929, 930 on the card. It is the Baltimore Orioles. They're going to be on the road facing off against the San Francisco Giants. The initial CBS opener had Tristan Beck getting the start for the San Francisco Giants, going against Trevor Rogers of the Orioles. This pretty much tells me that it's going to be some sort of a bullpen game for the San Francisco Giants. Right now I'm seeing an initial opener of the Orioles being minus 124 on the money line, plus 106 with the Giants, and a total of 7.5. The over is minus 120, and the under is even, and I would be willing to lay that number with the Orioles. I did set them at a minus 124, as Trevor Rogers just continues to be absolutely amazing. I don't know how he's doing it, because he was terrible at the minor league level this year. Like, he was at AAA Norfolk and he couldn't get anyone out. And then he comes to the big league level and he looks like Bob Gibson 2.0. 140 ERA with a 233 fielding dependent. His strikeout numbers are starting to go up. 8.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has given up 2 home runs in 83 and a third innings. Like, that's just absolutely wild. With 2 walks per 9 innings. He has given up approximately 1 run in every one of his starts in the month of August. And he gets to go up against the San Francisco Giants team that's been deplorable at home with regards to their offense. As a matter of fact, for the Giants, dead last in the National League in terms of run scoring with 3.7 runs per game. Now, ding dong, the witch is dead. You finally had Rafael Devers get a multi-home run game for the Giants about a few days ago. He's been a little bit better for them, but overall for the season, in a Giants uniform, he's been not really performing, hitting below a 245, less than a 345 on base, so that's been a little bit of an issue for this team. The bottom of the lineup has not been very good. The likes of Luis Matos, Tyler Fitzgerald, the entirety of the catcher spot, hitting at 225 or lower, that's been an issue. Casey Schmidt, when he's got an opportunity, says now you've got off the injured list a guy in Mr. Matt Chapman, who's not hitting for a lot of average. Matt Chapman only hitting for about a 231 average, but 340 on base, 18 home runs. Schmidt has been able to give you about a 315 on base, 9 home runs and 240 at bats. Not too bad there. And then Eloy Ramos, Jungle Lee, hitting between about a 262, 265, and Ramos 340 on base, 16 home runs. He's been solid, but it's just been a really wonky lineup, and I I will say this for the Giants, because they're probably going to have to piecemeal things together here. They have been a top 3 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, much of that came with Camilo Duvall and Tyler Rogers, and they've dealt with Eric Miller dealing with injuries, but you've had Randy Rodriguez continue to be able to give you a sub-2 ERA. You've had Ryan Walker, Joey Lucchesi as long guys, post up an ERA in that neighborhood of between about a 350 to a 370. Not great, not terrible. Spencer Bivens has had his issues, though, and for Tristan Beck, if you do see him in this game, which he might not necessarily be the starter, but he might be a little bit more of a bulk guy. He's posting up a 42 ERA. He's only been able to get about 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. Can give you some relatively solid length, but I know I would only expect him to go like maybe 3-4 innings if you're really lucky. And on the other end for the Baltimore Orioles, this has been a rough bullpen to say the least, as you do have the likes of Grant Wolfram, Yarmiel Hidalgo, along with Yanier Cano, posting up above a 4 ERA. Keegan Aiken, as a long guy, has not been too bad. He and Cade Stout have been able to give you a sub-350 ERA, but the Felix Bautista injury really does hurt the team. Dietrich Hens, since he's come over from the Tigers, he's been able to give you a little bit of length. He's been rocking about a 385 ERA, but for the Orioles, they're actually right there at the bottom of the American League in terms of runs per game away from home, about 3.75 runs per game away from home. You do have a pair of guys in Jackson Holiday, Gunnar Henderson, both with between 15 to 16 home runs apiece. Henderson, 350 on base, hitting at 275. Ryan Mountcastle has been able to 250, but he hasn't been able to give you a lot of power, and he's been dealing with injuries all season long. Jordan Westberg is on the injury list. Adley Rushman is on the injury list. That hurts his team, and Kobe Mayo has been ineffective along Dylan Carlson. Both of these guys less than a 275 on base, not supplying a lot of power, so do think that this is going to be a little bit of a lower scoring game. Seeing that 7.5 out there, I'm in on the under, so I till 7.4, and with the Orioles, willing to lay up to a minus 123 on that money line, and that'll wrap things up for the Saturday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to Rob Donaldson of the Rob's Best Bets Show for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'm with you guys every single day on this podcast throughout the MLB regular season into the postseason. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.